Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. Today I want to do a quick how-to on the floating worm. And it's kind of a misnomer because it's really not a floating worm, but we're going to get right into it. But before we do, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and drop a comment down below. Love to hear your thoughts on it. The floating worm rig kind of got its name years ago when people actually used a worm that would float. It actually was a buoyant worm, but today people just use just a regular 6.5 inch finesse worm. I've got, this is the KVD Perfect Plastics by Strike King, and it works just fine. And actually, I don't think you really want a floating worm per se. You want a worm that can sink a little bit, because sometimes you're going to actually see them come up and eat it, and then other times you're going to work it out of sight, you're going to drop it down low, you're going to vary your presentation. That will enable you to get it down below just on the surface. I want to go over the setup that I use for this bait. I like to use a spinning rod. I've done it with a casting rod, but a spinning rod I feel like enables me to present the bait better. I can make long cast with this light bait, and I can skip it under docks and different things like that. I'm generally using a Lew's Custom Pro Speed Spin, a 3000 size, and then I go with just some braided line. And I like the yellow. Yellow works fine, and I'm using that Strike King Tour Grade braid, 10 to say 15 pound test. And then I want to go with, say, something from like a 12 or 14 pound test Gamma fluorocarbon leader. And what I've done here is, in the transition period from the braided line to the leader, I'm just going with a barrel swivel, just a generic barrel swivel. This is like a size 7 barrel swivel. There's my leader length. Anything from, say, on the leader length, anything from, say, a 12 inches to 24 inches. The longer it gets, the harder it is to cast. So, because you can't quite reel, you can't reel this past the tip. It would get stuck up there when you made the cast. And then I'm going with a 5/0 owner. It's just an all-purpose offset round bend worm hook. And then the rigging portion, a lot of times we rig our soft plastics into the flat side. Like, we want the hook to be on the flat side like this, but not on this. I actually want it to be like a boat. So the round side, I'm going to want the round side, and that's going to give it action when I'm twitching it back and forth. Twitch, 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 twitch. That's going to give it some action, which I think is really key. So just in rigging it, you rig it just like a normal Texas rig worm. I run it in about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Run it up over the eye of the hook, just like that. Now, key is, with all my soft plastics, get it straight. But with this one, you want to bend, you want to put a little bend or a crook in it, whatever you want to call it. I say just kind of a bend like that. And I just twitch it with the rod down. You can twitch it up, but I feel like twitching it down, the line doesn't get caught by any wind, and I can manage my line a little bit better. So that's really the rig right there. In my opinion, the best time to use this rig is spawn, post-spawn. You might ask, well, why the bright color? All kinds of bright colors work really well for the floating worm rig. Well, this is like a methylate, but I've caught them on bubble gum. I've caught them on a yellow. I want something called a bruised banana. I've caught them on a pinkish color, just a white. All kinds of bright colors that show up really well in the water. And I'm just twitching it through the water column. This can work in the pre-spawn, but I feel like it's best around the spawn, post-spawn. When they're territorial about the area, this thing kind of comes in there and they just come over and check it out and they just slurp it in. It's really a cool bite because a lot of times you can see the bite from a distance, and sometimes you don't. You let it drop out of sight and your line will just tighten up, or you'll feel a tick and it'll just swim off. You set the hook just like anything. But it's a great way, in my opinion, to catch them during the spawn, post-spawn, because a lot of times when you're looking for those areas that the fish are spawning, you can just put the trolling motor down with this and just cover water. You can just twitch, 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 just kind of fish it like a spinner bait per se. Throwing it up around likely looking targets. You see a light spot out there, just throw it over to the light spot, twitch, 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 and you get this guy coming back through, and a lot of times the fish will come and get it. You definitely want to vary your retrieve, because Sometimes they want it up and high on the water column. Sometimes they want it down low. Sometimes they want it nice and slow and falling. Other times, you know, they want it just kind of almost just running up near the top of the water column. So just kind of pay attention to when you get a bite, what you were doing when you got the bite. But that's the floating worm. Just a quick video, kind of the how-to, going over the basics. Caught some nice fish on it today. It's chunkaroo. It's really one of my favorite ways to catch them. Oh, and the post spawn. The post spawn, this works really well because a lot of these fish are still up there, and it works on bass that are protecting fry, you know, fry garters. Spawn, post spawn is definitely number one, and pre-spawn, you can catch them. And I actually think you could catch them at other times of the year, bluegill bedding, those types of things. This is a technique that could be explored at other seasons, but a lot of guys just kind of pigeonhole it to the springtime technique. But it's a great way to catch them. You can catch some big ones doing it too. If you don't throw the floating worm, you need to this spring. And if you do throw it, this is kind of a reminder. This is that time of year to get it out there and catch some bass. Just a quick video how-to on the floating worm. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. Until next time, good fishing.